The information provided by Trading Forex Price Action to you does not constitute personal financial advice. The information provided is of a general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. It should not be used, relied upon, or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice.
Weekly Forecast.
Hey guys, this is a weekly forecast for May 10th through the 14th of 2021. Okay, we'll start off with the pound dollar. Alright, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. Okay, so we had a weak double bottom right here. And weak double bottoms typically don't go as target height, which is generally in this area right here. And so in the long term, I am short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. However, since this double bottom still has a little bit strength long left, in the medium term, I'm long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. And finally, since I'm waiting for the weekly time frame to show some direction, in the short term, I am neutral biased. Okay, let's talk entries. Alright, this is a weekly chart. Here's a setup I've been looking at for the past couple of months. So we had a strong short trade, then a weak long trade formed right here. So as price pulled back, I was looking for short entries right back down to this pivot low as a target, and that target was hit. Now at this point, I'm waiting for another long trade to form on this weekly chart, and then I'm going to gauge its strength. Now if this long trade is stronger than this short trade right here, then that's along with my medium term bias, so I'll take it right back up to that medium term target right up here at this pivot high. However, on the other hand, if this long trade is weaker than this short trade, then in that case, I'll just wait for a pullback up as far as possible so I could take another short right back down to the new pivot low as a target. Alright, so for the medium term, I'm still just waiting for this weekly long to form. However, there were some intraday setups I was talking about, so let me update you on those. Let me take you down to the daily chart. Okay, so if you recall on this daily chart, the last short trade that formed was right here, with a stop loss at its pivot high right here. Now I was mentioning 2 weeks ago, if price pulls back enough, giving me a great risk to reward ratio, because the entry will be right here and the stop loss is right here, then I'll be taking this short trade. And so I entered short, and that first target was hit the following day. So at this level, I took out 80% of my position, and simultaneously, I lowered my stop loss to break even at this point. And then I was leaving 20% in just to see if it could hit my second target right down here. Now on the midweek analysis, I was also saying that I may possibly abort the last 20% of my position, depending on the price action on the lower time frames that happen in this area. Okay, so let me show you what happened on the price action on the 4-hour chart. Alright, this is a 4-hour chart. So I took out the last 20% of that position I was holding roughly at this level. Now the reason being is that although the price action on the lower time frame, like the 5 and 1 minute chart, wasn't that strong up, it was also not that strong down, so it was very neutral. And considering that the NFP news was about to come out and my stop loss being so close to current price levels and the possibility of wide spreads stopping out my stop loss, I took out the rest of the position at this level right here. So a good thing to remember is that when there's huge market movers, in this case the NFP, and your stop loss is close to current price, you should take out your entire position or move your stop loss to a level which allows price to wiggle around a bit. Okay, so at this point, I closed all the positions for that intraday trade I was talking about for the past week. And now there's another setup I'm looking at, so let me take you back to the daily chart. Okay, so again, on the daily chart, the last short trade that formed was right here, with the stop loss at its pivot high right here. Now on Friday night, I took another short trade with a minimal stop loss of 10 pips. Okay, so my risk is this distance right here. Now the setup is essentially the same as the last intraday I showed you earlier, with the stop loss being at the pivot high. and the first target being right here, and the second target being right here. Now in general, I will not take two short trades consecutively with the same setup parameters. However, in this case, there's three reasons why I took this short trade again. Now one is that the risk is extremely small. It's only 10 pips, with the possible target way down here as the first target. And number two is because, like I've been mentioning for the past couple of weeks, the pound dollar is in a very rangy area. Now this was due to the many weekly gaps in this area. And thus at the current moment on this pair, there is a tendency for price to give very nice pullbacks. Now the prior example will be this short trade right here. Now before this short trade hit its targets, price gave very nice pullbacks, very close to the stop loss point, which was this pivot high right here. And finally, the third reason was because the lower time frames price action long in this area was not that strong. So let me go ahead and show you that. Alright, so this is the 1 minute chart. Now you can see the NFP was released right here. And as price pulled back in this area and in this area, the long price action on this 1 minute chart was not strong long. Now this is what I'm talking about, compact price action, where the distance between each peak is too wide on these peaks and furthermore on these peaks. Okay, but since I generally don't take two same trades consecutively, I'll be constantly watching these lower time frames price action to see if there's any strength long on it forming. In which case it does form, I will take out the entire position for this intraday trade. Okay, so let me take you back to the weekly chart. Okay, but in the short term, I'm still just waiting for that weekly long trade to form so I could gauge its strength and decide if I want to take a long right up to this pivot as a target, or let price pull back and take a short right back down to this new pivot low. Alright, let's go on to the NZD-USD pair. Okay, this is a weekly chart. We'll start off with an overview. Alright, so since this move up, starting from this range right here, was solely based on momentum, in the long term, I'm short biased right back down to these pivot lows right here. However, in the medium term, since there's a little bit of momentum left long in this move, I am long biased right up to this pivot high as a target. Okay, let's talk entries. Alright, this is a 4-hour chart. So like I've been saying, the last long trade that formed was right here, and then there were many weak short trades that formed. So I was expecting a medium strength move up. However, since my medium term target is way up here, I wasn't comfortable with taking this long trade to a target so distant. And so for the past couple weeks, I was waiting for a pullback down so possibly a strong long trade form so I could take a long right up to our medium term target. Okay, there was some important price action event on this currency pair, so let me take you to the daily chart. Okay, so on this daily chart, the last short trade that formed was right here. And if you watch my midweek analysis, I was talking about if the long price action on the lower time frames in this area was weak long, I was considering a short entry right back down to this pivot low as a target with a stop loss up here. And at this point, similar to the pound dollar, the price action was neither strong long or short, so it was basically neutral. So since the price action long was neither strong or weak, and also because this short intraday setup was based on the assumption that the weekly chart will make another red candle this week, and the lower time frames price action not backing that up, I did not take this short trade. Okay, so since that weekly chart did not make that second red candle, at this point, this intraday setup is outdated. Alright, so furthermore, in terms of that long entry to our medium term target right up here, there is a possible long that formed on this daily chart, so let me explain that. Alright, so on Thursday, a long trade did form right here, and this long trade is just slightly stronger than this short trade. However, with the stop loss being at this pivot low, and price not giving any pullbacks for a better risk to reward ratio, I'm only willing to take this long trade if price gives a very nice pullback. And if that happens, perhaps I'll take a long right back up to our medium term target at this pivot high right here. However, like I mentioned on the last intraday trade, this long entry depends on the situation on the weekly chart, so let me take you over there. Okay, so on this weekly chart, although this idea is much further out in the future, if two consecutive red candles form before that daily stop loss level, which is right here, is touched, then I'll be taking that weekly short trade right back down to these pivot lows right here. However, that's still far out in the future. So at this point, as long as these two red candles don't form, if I get a nice pullback close to the daily stop loss level, giving me a good risk to reward ratio, then I'll take that long right back up to our medium term target up here. Okay, let's go on to the Aussie NZD pair. Alright, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So there was a normal double bottom right here against a weak downward trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. In the long term, I've been long biased right up to the first target of this trend line right here, and that target was hit, and possibly the second target of this pivot high. However, on the medium term, since there's a lot of momentum down, at least to this pivot low right here, and I'm only willing to take long trades along with the long-term trend, in the medium term, I am neutral biased. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, this is a daily chart. Let me just run you by the recent events that were taking place. So we were taking longs right up to that monthly trend line level, which was right here, and that first target was hit. Then price tried to get through that monthly trend line level to our second target, but failed and came down. Then at this point, there was another long attempt to get through that monthly trend line. However, this one failed. And then I was mentioning, if price falls to hit this pivot low right here, there is a high probability that price could fall right back down to this pivot first, and then to this second pivot down here. And for the time being, that seems to be happening. Now, the reason for this fall down is based on the weekly chart, so let me take you over there. Alright, so on this weekly chart, the last long trade that formed was right here. And there is a high probability that that monthly trend line was this long trade's main target. So when trades already hit their targets, price often comes right back down with a lot of strength just to stop out the traders that are still long in this trade, with this as the stop loss level. So in a case like this, even if there are many strong lower time frame long trades, they all get overpowered by this weekly short strength and get stopped out. Now typically, since the short-term bias is down right back down to this weekly long trade stop loss level, I would be looking for short trades. However, in the case of this pair, since there are many gaps all over the place, especially on the monthly chart, it's going to be very hard to find a short trade on the lower time frames that also has tight stop loss levels. So for this pair, I'm only looking for entries long at this point. So there's two options for this long entry. Now one is to simply get a strong long trade on this weekly chart. Now this strong long trade must be on the weekly chart. For this move down, it's based on the weekly time frame short strength. Now if you don't understand what I'm talking about in terms of strong trades and weak trades, please watch my price action trading course. For those lessons are designed so you have sufficient information to understand these forecasts. Okay, so one option is to get that strong long trade on the weekly chart, and the other are on these trend lines. So try to run these trend lines from this pivot to this pivot right here, and another one from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now price could come back and form compact price action on one of these trend lines. Now this compact price action could be on the lower time frames, like the daily 4-hour or 1-hour chart. But just remember, the definition of compact price action is that the distance between these peaks is extremely small. The smaller the better. Now if we could get that kind of price action on one of these weekly trend lines, that's another reason I would take a long right up to our long-term second target. Okay. Alright, so that's it for the weekly forecast. I hope you guys have a great week, guys. And thanks for watching. Okay, bye.